I'm tired of brunettes. Now I only want blondes." Roxanne Mullen noticed the single strand of platinum blonde hair on the pristine white towel and felt her world collapse. For weeks, she had been ignoring the subtle signs: her husband's late nights at the office, the sudden password on his phone, the way Julius no longer kissed her goodbye in the mornings. But that single golden thread against white cotton was impossible to dismiss. It didn't belong to her with her dark waves, and it certainly didn't belong to Julius with his closely cropped salt and pepper hair. Her fingers trembled as she plucked the hair from the towel. For 6 years of marriage, she had trusted this man completely. Now, on a quiet Friday afternoon in their suburban home, while organizing the bathroom by their pool area, everything changed in an instant. "Breathe," she whispered to herself, inhaling deeply as she glanced around the bathroom. Her gaze stopped on the shelf where her special sunscreen, an expensive brand specifically formulated for deeper skin tones, sat nearly empty. She distinctly remembered buying it just 2 weeks ago and using it only twice. Roxanne's mind raced. Someone had been in her house, used her pool, her bathroom, and her personal products. Someone with hair the color of spun gold. Her chest tightened as the pieces clicked into place, forming a picture she desperately didn't want to see. She sank onto the edge of the bathtub, still clutching the blonde strand between her fingertips. Images flashed through her mind: Julius checking his phone with a slight smile, pulling away when she tried to hug him, making excuses to avoid their date nights. She had attributed it to stress at work, had believed him when he said that big promotion was requiring extra hours. What a fool she had been. The sound of her phone chiming broke through her spiraling thoughts. A text from Sherry. "Don't forget our lunch tomorrow. Need to hear all about that new nutrition program you're launching. Sherry Rowland." Her best friend for over a decade. The one person who had always seen through Julius's charm to the selfishness beneath. "Something about him just doesn't sit right with me, Rox," she had said years ago at their engagement party. Roxanne had laughed it off then. Now, the memory burned. She tucked the strand of hair into a small plastic bag from the bathroom drawer. Evidence. Though of what? She wasn't yet sure. The sunscreen bottle she examined more closely. It was an expensive formula she'd started using last summer. Mineral-based, with added melanin protection for darker skin tones. Not the kind of product someone with fair skin would typically choose. Julius wasn't due home for hours. His Friday meetings usually ran late, or so he claimed. With trembling hands, she took out her phone and pulled up their shared location app. The little blue dot showing Julius's position was nowhere near his office downtown. Instead, it pulsed softly at an address in the upscale River Oaks district, a residential area. "Bastard," she whispered, the word foreign on her tongue. In nearly 40 years of life, Roxanne had prided herself on her composure, her professionalism. As a nutritionist with a growing clientele, she had built her reputation on being level-headed and methodical. Now, a single strand of hair had reduced her to shaking hands and whispered curses. She took another deep breath and straightened her shoulders. If there was one thing her grandmother had taught her growing up in Memphis, it was that a lady always gathered all the facts before making her move. "Don't you ever let them see you sweat, baby girl," Grandma Rose used to say. "You get your evidence, you make your plan, and then you strike when they least expect it." With newfound determination, Roxanne went to her home office and powered up her laptop. A while back, she had watched an online tutorial about recovering deleted text messages and cloning phone data. Research for a client whose teenage daughter was struggling with online bullying. She never imagined she would use those skills in her own marriage. The house was eerily quiet as she worked. Their open-concept home, once a source of pride with its modern decor and pool view, now felt like a stage set for a life that was proving to be fiction. The framed wedding photo on her desk seemed to mock her. Julius, in his tailored suit, looking at her as if she were the only woman in the world. By 5:30, She had downloaded everything she needed. A data recovery program that could clone messages from Julius's phone if she could get access to it for just 5 minutes. The program would forward all incoming and outgoing texts to her laptop in real time. All she needed was his unlocked phone. As if summoned by her thoughts, she heard the garage door opening. Roxanne quickly closed the laptop and moved to the kitchen, pulling out vegetables to chop, as if preparing dinner had been her only concern. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands were steady now. Grandma Rose would be proud. Julius entered through the garage door, looking exactly as he always did, handsome in his charcoal suit, his expression tired but pleased. For a moment, Roxanne almost doubted herself. Could she have misinterpreted everything? But then she remembered the blonde hair, the nearly empty sunscreen, his location nowhere near his office. "Hey, babe," he said, setting his briefcase down on the counter. He didn't kiss her. When had he stopped kissing her when he came home? "Hi," she replied, the single syllable requiring all her acting skills to sound normal. "Tough day?" "The usual Friday chaos," he said with a sigh, loosening his tie. "Those client meetings never end on time." The lie slipped from his lips so easily that Roxanne almost admired his skill. Almost. "I made that salmon you like for dinner," she said, indicating the dish in the oven that she had actually prepared yesterday. "It just needs to warm up." "Actually, I grabbed something with the team already," Julius said, not quite meeting her eyes. "But I can have a little. I'm going to take a shower first, though. It's been a long day." "Of course," Roxanne nodded, watching as he placed his phone on the counter and plugged it into the charger there. The screen lit up briefly, and she noticed it wasn't locked. Her heart skipped. "Take your time. I'll get everything ready." Julius smiled, that same smile that had once made her knees weak, and headed toward their master bedroom. The moment she heard the shower turn on, Roxanne moved swiftly to his phone. With practiced movements, she connected it to her laptop using a cable she had ready in the drawer. The data recovery program began running immediately, copying his text messages, call logs, and photos. 4 minutes. That was all she needed. She watched the progress bar on her laptop screen, ears strained for any change in the shower's steady rhythm. 3%, 27%, 65%. The water shut off, and Roxanne's pulse spiked. 87%. Not enough. She prayed he would take his time drying off, finding clothes, as he usually did. 93%. The bathroom door opened. 98%. Footsteps in the hallway. 100%. Complete. She disconnected the phone and slid it back to its exact position on the counter, closing her laptop just as Julius entered the kitchen. Hair damp, wearing lounge pants and a t-shirt. "Smells good," he commented, seemingly oblivious to what had just transpired. "Thanks," Roxanne replied, surprised at how steady her voice sounded when her insides were churning like the ocean during a storm. "I have some work to finish before dinner. Why don't you relax for a bit? I'll call you when it's ready." "Actually, I need to review some reports in the bedroom," he said, grabbing his phone. "Call me when dinner's ready?" "Sure thing." She watched him leave, taking the device that now fed all his messages directly to her laptop. The trap was set. Back in her office, door firmly closed, Roxanne opened the laptop. Already, the program had pulled Julius's text history. She scrolled through, breath caught in her throat, until she found a conversation thread with a contact saved simply as L. No photo, no last name, just L. The messages started innocently enough. Discussions about skincare products, dermatological advice, but as she scrolled further, the texts became increasingly personal, then explicitly intimate. Her stomach twisted as she read exchanges from just yesterday. L. Miss you already. Can't wait for Sunday. Julius. She'll be at that nutrition workshop all day. Come early, around 8. We'll have the house to ourselves until late. L. Perfect. I'll bring that bikini you love so much. Can't wait to use your pool again. Roxanne felt ill. This woman, this L, had been in her home, swimming in her pool, using her bathroom, using her special sunscreen. The violation felt physical, as if someone had reached inside her chest and squeezed her heart. She continued reading, each message another dagger. Then, a particular exchange from 3 weeks ago made her blood run cold. "Julius, you're all I think about lately. Your hair, your skin, your smile. L, what about your wife? Don't you think about her anymore? Julius, I'm tired of brunettes. Now I only want blondes. You're like sunshine after years of darkness." Roxanne sat perfectly still, the words burning into her brain. 6 years of marriage, reduced to hair color preference. The casual cruelty of it stole her breath. Just then, a new message alert popped up on her screen. Live. In real time. L. Hey, handsome. Free to talk? Julius. Yes, she's working in her office. What's up? L. Just confirming for Sunday. I'm so excited. Also, I need to ask you something about that product launch on Monday. The investors will be there, and I need to look perfect. Julius, you always look perfect. What's the product again? L. A new sensitive skin line. I'm the face of it. Biggest opportunity of my career. Roxanne's eyes narrowed. A dermatologist with a product launch. She quickly opened her browser and searched Dermatologist Product Launch Monday. Several results appeared, but one caught her eye immediately. Renowned dermatologist Dr. Lorraine Barker to introduce revolutionary new skincare line for sensitive skin. The accompanying photo showed a stunning blonde woman with alabaster skin and crystal blue eyes. Dr. Lorraine Barker, 28, described as the rising star of dermatology and skincare guru to Houston's elite. L. Lorraine. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. More messages appeared on her screen. L. I've been using that sunscreen from your bathroom. The one formulated for darker skin? Ironically, it's the only one that doesn't make my sensitive skin react badly. Guess the witch knows her products, LOL. Julius. Ha ha ha. Don't worry about it. Use whatever you want when you're here. What's hers is yours as far as I'm concerned. L. You're the best. Can't wait to see you Sunday. Wear that blue shirt I love. And make sure she's really gone all day. Witch. The slur hit Roxanne like a physical blow. This woman, this young blonde dermatologist, was not only sleeping with her husband, but mocking her and using her personal products. And Julius was encouraging it, offering up Roxanne's belongings as if they were his to give away. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sherry. Still on for lunch tomorrow? Roxanne stared at the message, an idea forming. Sherry had always been her rock, her voice of reason. But she also had a wicked streak when it came to defending those she loved. And right now, Roxanne needed both reason and wickedness. She texted back, absolutely. But can we meet at your place instead of the restaurant? I have something important to discuss. Very private. Sherry's response was immediate. Of course. Everything okay? No, Roxanne typed, her fingers steady despite the storm inside her. But it will be. I'll explain tomorrow. She closed her phone just as Julius called from the kitchen. Dinner ready soon? I'm starving. The casual normalcy of his question, as if he hadn't just been texting his mistress, made something snap inside Roxanne. But instead of breaking down, she felt a strange calm settle over her. This man, this liar who slept beside her night after night, had no idea what was coming. Just a few more minutes, she called back, her voice pleasant. Why don't you pour us some wine? As she saved the incriminating messages and closed her laptop, Roxanne thought of the blonde hair still tucked away in the plastic bag. Such a small thing to bring down a marriage. But then, it wasn't the hair that was destroying them. It was the betrayal, the disrespect, the casual cruelty of a man who had promised to love her forever. Tomorrow, with Sherry's help, she would begin planning exactly how to respond to that betrayal. And Julius would learn that while he might be tired of brunettes, This particular one wasn't someone to be discarded so easily. "Coming, dear," she called, smoothing her expression into one of wifely concern. For tonight, she would play her role perfectly. The dutiful wife, none the wiser about her husband's betrayal. But inside, Roxanne Mullen was already calculating the precise cost of disloyalty and how to ensure it was paid in full. The next morning, Roxanne woke before Julius, her mind clear despite barely sleeping. She watched him for a moment, peaceful in slumber, one arm flung across what used to be her side of the bed. How long had it been since they actually slept entwined? Months, she realized. The distance had crept in so gradually she hadn't noticed until now, with her eyes fully opened to his betrayal. She slipped out of bed silently and prepared for her meeting with Sherry. Every movement was deliberate as she applied her makeup, a subtle armor against the day ahead. In the shower, she had allowed herself 5 minutes of silent tears, the water washing away any evidence of weakness. Now, she was steel-wrapped in silk. Julius was still asleep when she left, leaving behind a note about meeting Sherry for lunch. Another day, she might have kissed his forehead goodbye. Today, she couldn't bear to touch him. Sherry's downtown loft was a sanctuary of warm colors and comfortable furniture, so different from the sleek modern lines of Roxanne's own home. As always, the contrast felt like stepping into a hug. "Okay, spill it," Sherry said the moment Roxanne was through the door, not even waiting until they reached the living room. "You've got that look, the one that says either someone died or someone's about to wish they had." Roxanne's carefully constructed composure cracked. "He's cheating on me, Sherry. That son of a—" Sherry caught herself, taking a deep breath. "I knew it. I always knew there was something off about him. Sit down. Tell me everything." Over herbal tea that neither of them touched, Roxanne explained the discovery of the blonde hair, the sunscreen, and finally, the text messages she'd intercepted. "I have them all here," she said, opening her laptop. Every message between them for the past 3 months. Sherry's expression darkened as she read through the exchanges. When she got to the "tired of brunettes" comment and the "witch" remark, she slammed the laptop shut, her face flushed with anger. "I'm going to kill him," she said flatly. "And her, too. That skinny little—" "No," Roxanne interrupted, her voice quiet but firm. "We're going to do something much better." Sherry raised an eyebrow, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I'm listening. Tomorrow, Julius thinks I'll be at a nutrition workshop all day. He's invited her over to my house to use my pool, my things." Roxanne leaned forward. "I want to give them exactly what they're expecting, with a special twist." For the next hour, they researched Dr. Lorraine Barker thoroughly. Her social media accounts painted the picture of a successful young dermatologist on the rise. Skin so fair it was almost translucent, platinum blonde hair that fell in perfect waves, and a specialty in sensitive skin care. Her latest posts all referenced an upcoming product launch on Monday. Her big career breakthrough as the face of a new sensitive skin line. "Look at this," Sherry pointed to an Instagram post from 2 days ago. Lorraine in a lab coat, captioned, "Final preparations for Monday's launch. So excited to represent a product I truly believe in. Remember, your skin is your signature. Make it flawless. Sensitive skin care. Dermatologist approved. Her career is built on having perfect skin," Roxanne mused. "And she's using my sunscreen because it's the only one that doesn't irritate her sensitive skin." Sherry looked at her friend, recognition dawning. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" "I believe I am." For the first time since finding that blonde hair, Roxanne smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We're going to give Dr. Barker a special formulation of her own." Their plan took shape quickly. They would need to purchase the same brand of sunscreen Roxanne used, plus a powerful bronzing accelerator designed for deep tanning, one specifically labeled "not for sensitive skin," and high pigmentation formula. "This stuff is intense," Sherry said, reading the online description. It's meant for people who want the deepest tan possible in the shortest time. Perfect, Roxanne nodded. For someone with Lorraine's extremely fair complexion, it would be disastrous, especially if she thinks she's protected with regular sunscreen. And she has that big product launch on Monday, Sherry added, her eyes glittering with anticipation, where she's supposed to be the flawless face of sensitive skin care. Exactly. Roxanne felt a flicker of guilt, which she quickly suppressed. This woman had entered her home, used her things, mocked her, and slept with her husband. A bad sunburn seemed like modest retribution. They decided to add one more element to their plan, a small, discreet camera hidden among the potted plants near the pool area. I need to see it with my own eyes, Roxanne explained. All of it. No more wondering or imagining. By early afternoon, they had purchased everything they needed. A new bottle of Roxanne's Sunscreen, the bronzing accelerator, and a tiny wireless camera with audio capabilities. Back at Sherry's loft, they carefully emptied half the sunscreen bottle and mixed in the bronzing accelerator, stirring until the concoction looked identical to the original formula. "Will it burn her?" Roxanne asked suddenly, concern flickering across her face. "Not permanently," Sherry assured her after checking the ingredients. "It'll make her extremely red and uncomfortable, like a bad sunburn. Probably peel a bit. Definitely noticeable, especially on someone so pale, but nothing permanent or scarring." Roxanne nodded, relieved. She wanted justice, not lasting harm. "That's perfect, then." They tested the mixture on a small patch of paper. It appeared the same color as the original sunscreen, but left a faint brownish residue as it dried, something someone would only notice if they were looking for it. "She won't suspect a thing," Sherry said confidently. "She'll just think it's your fancy, dark-skin formula sunscreen doing its job." The rest of the afternoon was spent planning the final details. Roxanne would leave the doctored sunscreen prominently displayed in the pool bathroom. The camera would be positioned to capture both the pool area and the entrance to the bathroom, and Roxanne would spend Sunday at Sherry's place, watching the events unfold in real time on Sherry's large-screen TV. "What about Julius?" Sherry asked, as they finalized their preparations. "Are you confronting him afterward?" Roxanne was quiet for a moment, considering. "Yes," she finally said, "but not right away. I want to see how this plays out first. I want to see his reaction when his precious blonde goddess turns lobster red." As evening approached, Roxanne gathered her things to return home. The doctored sunscreen was carefully sealed in her bag, and the tiny camera was tucked safely in her purse. "You sure you can go back there tonight and act normal?" Sherry asked, concern evident in her voice. "I've been acting normal since yesterday afternoon," Roxanne replied with a sad smile. "What's one more night?" When she arrived home, Julius was in his home office, ostensibly working. He barely looked up when she entered, offering only a distracted "hey" in greeting. "Workshop all confirmed for tomorrow?" he asked, his attention still on his computer screen. "All set," she replied, keeping her voice light. 8 to 6. It's an intensive program on nutritional approaches for skin health. Now he looked at her, a flicker of something. Guilt? Anticipation? Crossing his features. "That's great. Sounds really interesting." "It should be." He forced a smile. "What about you? Any plans for your Sunday?" "Nothing special," he shrugged. "Might catch up on some work. Maybe watch the game." The ease with which he lied still had the power to shock her. After 6 years together, she had believed she knew this man completely. Now, she wondered if she had ever known him at all. "Well, don't work too hard," she said, turning to leave his office. "I'm going to take a quick shower and then make dinner." Once in the master bathroom, door locked, she allowed her mask to slip momentarily. The woman in the mirror looked back at her with eyes that held equal parts pain and determination. Grandma Rose's words echoed in her mind. "Never let them see you sweat. Baby girl." She wouldn't. Not Julius. And certainly not Lorraine Barker. After dinner, a mostly silent affair where Julius seemed lost in his own thoughts, Roxanne excused herself to prepare some materials for tomorrow's workshop. Instead, she slipped out to the pool area with the tiny camera, positioning it carefully among the lush potted ferns that surrounded the patio. The angle was perfect, capturing both the pool and the pathway to the outdoor bathroom. Back inside, she replaced her regular sunscreen in the pool bathroom with the doctored version, placing it prominently on the shelf where Lorraine would be sure to find it. Everything was set. That night, lying beside the man who had betrayed her, Roxanne stared at the ceiling and thought about the path that had led her here. She had met Julius 9 years ago at a charity gala. He, the charismatic sales executive who could charm anyone. She, the dedicated nutritionist building her practice one client at a time. He had pursued her relentlessly, wooing her with grand gestures and promises of forever. For 6 years, she had believed their marriage was solid, not perfect, but real and lasting. They had weathered career changes, the death of her father, the purchase of this house. They had talked about children, though somehow the timing had never seemed right. Now she wondered if Julius had always been looking elsewhere, always searching for something, someone different. The next morning, Roxanne dressed with care in workout clothes, as if truly heading to a full-day workshop. Julius was already awake, nursing a cup of coffee at the kitchen island, scrolling through his phone with unusual intensity. "I made coffee," he said, not looking up. "Thanks. I'll grab some on the way," she replied, gathering her purse and a tote bag filled with notebooks and her laptop. The perfect prop for her fictitious workshop. "I should get going. Don't want to be late." "Have a good day," he said, finally glancing up with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Learn lots about skin nutrition. That's the plan." She hesitated at the door, wondering if this would be the last normal moment between them. Then she steeled herself and left without looking back. The moment she was in her car, she texted Sherry, "On my way. Operation Sunburn is a go." Sherry's reply was immediate. "Popcorn ready. This is going to be better than any reality show." Roxanne drove around the block and parked a few streets over, waiting 10 minutes to ensure Julius wouldn't spot her car if he happened to leave the house. Then she drove to Sherry's loft, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Sherry had indeed prepared as if for a movie night, comfortable seating arranged in front of her large TV, which was already connected to the camera feed from Roxanne's pool area. A spread of stress-eating foods covered the coffee table: chips, dip, chocolate, and yes, a bowl of popcorn. "Too much?" Sherry asked, noticing Roxanne's raised eyebrow at the setup. "Actually, it's perfect," Roxanne said, settling onto the couch. "If I'm going to watch my marriage implode, I might as well have snacks." The camera feed showed their backyard, peaceful and empty in the morning light. The pool water sparkled invitingly, undisturbed. It was 7:45, 15 minutes before Lorraine was expected to arrive. Roxanne's phone buzzed with a text notification. It was from Julius. "Hope the workshop is going well. Learning anything useful?" The absolute audacity of the man, texting her while preparing to welcome his mistress into their home, made Roxanne's blood boil. She didn't reply. At precisely 8:02, movement on the camera feed caught their attention. The side gate opened and a woman entered, tall, slim, with platinum blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail. She wore oversized sunglasses and carried a large designer tote bag. "That's her," Roxanne whispered, though there was no need to be quiet. "That's Lorraine." They watched as Julius appeared from the house, pulling the woman into a passionate embrace. The audio was clear enough to pick up their conversation. "I've been counting the hours," Julius said, his voice low and intimate, in a way Roxanne hadn't heard in years. "Me too," Lorraine replied, reaching up to remove her sunglasses, revealing startlingly blue eyes. "I brought that bikini you love." "Can't wait to see it," he grinned, taking her hand and leading her toward the house. "Want some coffee first? Or should we?" His voice trailed off suggestively. Lorraine laughed, a tinkling sound that made Roxanne's jaw clench. "Coffee first. We have all day, remember? And I definitely want to use the pool before it gets too hot. I need to be careful with my skin for tomorrow's launch." They disappeared into the house, and Roxanne and Sherry exchanged glances. "Are you okay?" Sherry asked gently. Roxanne took a deep breath. "No, but I will be." For the next hour there was no movement in the pool area. Roxanne and Sherry waited, making small talk that carefully avoided what they were actually doing, spying on Roxanne's husband and his lover. Finally, just after 9:30, the back door opened again. Julius emerged first, wearing swim trunks and carrying 2 glasses of what appeared to be mimosas. Lorraine followed in a tiny white bikini that contrasted starkly with her fair skin. "God, she really is pale," Sherry murmured, "like human parchment paper. So, which makes her the perfect canvas for our little experiment." Roxanne replied, her voice steady despite the pain of watching another woman in her space with her husband. They watched as Julius and Lorraine settled on adjacent lounge chairs. Lorraine reached into her bag and pulled out a floppy sun hat and large sunglasses. "I need to put on sunscreen before I do anything else," she said, standing up. "My skin burns if I even think about the sun." "Where's that amazing sunscreen of hers?" "In the bathroom," Julius replied, gesturing toward the pool house. "Same place as last time." Lorraine nodded and headed for the bathroom. Moments later, she emerged with the doctored bottle in hand. "Got it. Honestly, it's the best sunscreen I've ever used. Ironic that it's made for darker skin tones, but it's the only thing that doesn't make my sensitive skin react." "The witch has good taste in some things," Julius laughed, taking a sip of his mimosa. Roxanne flinched at the slur, but kept her eyes fixed on the screen as Lorraine began applying the doctored sunscreen liberally to her arms, legs, neck, and face. "The countdown begins," Sherry said softly, checking her watch. "Based on her complexion and the strength of that bronzing accelerator, I give it 15 minutes tops before she notices something wrong." Roxanne nodded, a strange calm settling over her. There was no going back now. Julius and Lorraine had made their choices. Now they would face the consequences. On screen, Lorraine settled back on her lounge chair, completely unaware that the protection she had just applied would soon transform her fair skin in ways she could never have imagined, and potentially her career along with it. "And now we wait," Roxanne said quietly, reaching for a handful of popcorn. The show was just beginning. The transformation began almost imperceptibly. At first, Roxanne thought she was imagining it, a slight pinkish tint appearing on Lorraine's shoulders and cheeks. But within 15 minutes, there was no mistaking the deepening flush spreading across the dermatologist's fair skin. On screen, Lorraine shifted uncomfortably on her lounge chair, reaching up to touch her shoulder with a slight frown. "Is it hot out here? Or is it just me?" she asked Julius, who was scrolling through his phone, oblivious to his companion's changing complexion. "It's a perfect 85 degrees, Julius replied without looking up. "Why? Too warm for you?" "I feel hot, like my skin is burning." Lorraine sat up straighter, examining her arm with growing concern. "Julius, look at me. Do I look red to you?" Julius finally glanced up, his expression shifting from casual interest to confusion. "You do look a bit pink. Did you put on enough sunscreen?" "I slathered it on!" Lorraine's voice rose with panic as she stood and rushed to examine her reflection in the glass of the patio door. "Oh my God, I'm turning red! Like, really red!" In Sherry's living room, Roxanne and Sherry exchanged satisfied glances. "Right on schedule," Sherry murmured. On screen, Lorraine was now frantically examining her reddening skin, her voice rising with each passing second. "This isn't possible! I used the sunscreen, the same one I always use here." Julius approached her, peering at her increasingly crimson complexion with concern. "Maybe you're having an allergic reaction?" "To what? I haven't changed anything." Lorraine was now pacing, her pale skin turning a deeper shade of red with each passing minute. I can't be having a reaction. I'm a dermatologist. I know exactly what my skin can and cannot tolerate. She rushed back to the bathroom, presumably to examine herself in the mirror. Her scream, when it came, was so piercing that both Roxanne and Sherry jumped despite expecting it. My face! What's happening to my face? The camera caught Julius running toward the bathroom, his expression a mix of concern and amusement. Lorraine? Are you okay? When Lorraine emerged, her transformation was striking. Her once alabaster skin now glowed an angry red, reminiscent of a boiled lobster. The contrast was made even more dramatic by the white bikini and the distinctive paler areas around her eyes where her large sunglasses had been, creating what Sherry aptly described as reverse raccoon eyes. "Do I look okay to you?" Lorraine shrieked, gesturing wildly at her flaming red skin. "I look like a goddamn tomato. This can't be happening. Not now. Not with the product launch tomorrow." Julius, to his credit, tried to maintain a serious expression, but the corner of his mouth twitched. "I'm sure it's just temporary. Don't you dare laugh at me." Lorraine cut him off, noticing his barely suppressed amusement. "This is a disaster. I'm the face of a sensitive skincare line. I'm supposed to demonstrate perfect, unblemished skin tomorrow in front of investors, press, and industry executives. Maybe it will fade by—" "Skin doesn't work that way, you idiot," she snapped, her dermatological expertise finally proving useful. "This kind of reaction takes days to subside, and it's going to get worse before it gets better." She stormed back to the lounge chair, grabbing her phone and frantically typing. "I need to call my colleague. She might know something that can reduce the redness quickly. Some kind of emergency treatment." In Sherry's apartment, Roxanne leaned forward, watching intently as the drama unfolded. There was a strange sense of detachment, as if she were watching characters in a movie rather than her husband and his mistress. The pain was still there, a dull ache beneath her breastbone, but it was overshadowed by a growing sense of righteous satisfaction. "She's really panicking," Sherry observed, munching on chips. "And rightfully so. That product launch is a career-defining moment for her. A moment that's now in serious jeopardy," Roxanne replied, her voice level. "Much like my marriage." On screen, Lorraine was now frantically gathering her things, stuffing them into her designer tote with jerky movements. "I have to go. I need to get treatment immediately. This is a career emergency." Julius followed her, looking increasingly annoyed. "You're leaving? We had the whole day planned." Lorraine whirled on him, her red face contorted with anger. "Are you serious right now? Look at me. I look like I've been deep-fried. This is my reputation, my career on the line. So, your career is more important than our relationship?" Julius's voice had taken on that wounded tone Roxanne knew well, the one he used when he felt slighted or underappreciated. "In this moment? Absolutely," Lorraine retorted, heading for the gate. "Years of work, networking, building my reputation, all potentially ruined because of whatever happened with that sunscreen." At the mention of the sunscreen, Roxanne tensed slightly. Would they make the connection? Lorraine paused, then turned back to grab the bottle from where she'd left it on the small table between the lounge chairs. "I'm taking this. I need to have it analyzed. Something is seriously wrong with this product." "It's just sunscreen," Julius protested. "It's probably expired or something." "Sunscreen doesn't do this when it expires," Lorraine snapped. "Something else is going on." Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Your wife? Has she been acting strange lately? Do you think she could have—" Julius looked genuinely confused. "What? Roxanne? She doesn't even know about us." Lorraine wasn't convinced. "Are you absolutely sure about that? Because this," she gestured to her red face, "feels deliberate." "That's ridiculous," Julius scoffed. "Roxanne is completely clueless. She thinks I'm working late most nights. Besides, she's not the type to do something like this. She's too proper, too composed." In Sherry's apartment, Roxanne felt a surge of indignation mixed with a strange pride. Even in his betrayal, Julius had underestimated her, dismissed her as predictable and passive. His inability to see her as capable of righteous anger, of calculated retribution, suddenly seemed like his greatest mistake. "You think you know people," Sherry muttered, seemingly reading Roxanne's thoughts. On screen, Lorraine was still skeptical. "I'm not so sure. Women have intuition, and revenge is as old as time. Trust me, you don't know my wife," Julius insisted. "She's probably giving some boring lecture on protein shakes right now, completely oblivious. Now can we please figure this out? Maybe there's a pharmacy nearby." "I need specialized products, not over-the-counter garbage," Lorraine snapped. "I have an emergency kit at my apartment with prescription-strength anti-inflammatory creams. I need to go there now." "Fine," Julius sighed, clearly disappointed that his day of infidelity was being cut short. "Let me grab my keys. I'll drive you." "Don't bother," Lorraine said coldly. "I'll call a car. You clearly don't understand the severity of this situation." She pulled out her phone again, presumably to call a rideshare. While waiting, she examined her increasingly red skin in her phone's camera, groaning in horror. "It's getting worse by the minute. I look like a radioactive strawberry." Julius made one more attempt to salvage the situation. "Look, I'm sorry if I seem unsympathetic. I was looking forward to our day together." Lorraine looked at him with undisguised irritation. "Well, sometimes life doesn't go according to plan. Something you might want to tell your wife someday." She checked her phone. "My ride is 2 minutes away. I'm leaving." Without another word, she stalked toward the side gate, Julius trailing helplessly behind her. The camera's view couldn't follow them beyond the yard, but the audio still picked up Lorraine's parting shot. "Don't call me until I figure out how to fix this disaster. And for God's sake, check if that wife of yours is really at a workshop today." Then came the sound of the gate slamming, and Julius was left alone, standing in the yard looking lost and confused. After a moment, he returned to the pool area, picked up his abandoned mimosa, and drained it in one gulp. Then he poured himself another from the pitcher on the table, his movements sharp with frustration. In Sherry's apartment, Roxanne and Sherry sat in silence for a moment, processing what they had just witnessed. "Well," Sherry finally said, "that didn't go quite how Romeo planned his Sunday?" Roxanne nodded, a complex mix of emotions washing over her. "No, it didn't." She checked her watch. "It's not even 11 yet. His entire day of planned infidelity, ruined before lunch. What do you think he'll do now?" Sherry asked. As if in answer to her question, on screen, Julius pulled out his phone and appeared to make a call. The camera's audio picked up his side of the conversation. "Hey, Mike. Yeah, change of plans for today. That, meeting got canceled. You guys still playing golf at noon? Great. Count me in." Roxanne felt a fresh wave of anger. Julius was pivoting so easily, from a day planned with his mistress to an impromptu golf game with friends. Their marriage lay in ruins, and he was reaching for his 9-iron. "Unbelievable," she muttered. They watched as Julius gathered the glasses and pitcher, heading back into the house. A few minutes later, he emerged in golf attire, loaded his clubs into his car, and drove away, leaving their home empty. Sherry turned to Roxanne. "What now? Do you want to go back to your house?" Roxanne considered the question carefully. "Not yet. Let's give it a couple of hours. I don't want to risk running into him if he comes back for something." "Fair enough," Sherry agreed. "In the meantime, we should probably discuss your next steps. Are you going to confront him when he gets home?" Roxanne shook her head slowly. "No, not tonight. I want one more night to process everything, to finalize my plan." She took a deep breath. "Tomorrow morning, I'll tell him I know everything. But tonight, I need to decide exactly what that means for us. For me." They spent the next few hours discussing options. Roxanne vacillated between cold fury and profound grief, sometimes in the space of a single sentence. Sherry listened, offered advice when asked, and kept the tissues coming. "I keep thinking about that text. Roxanne said after a particularly emotional moment. Tired of brunettes. Now I only want blondes. Like I'm just a hair color to him. Like 6 years of marriage comes down to something so superficial. He's the superficial one, Sherry replied firmly. And from what we just saw, his blonde goddess isn't exactly loyal either. The moment her precious career was threatened, she dropped him like yesterday's trash. They deserve each other, Roxanne agreed, a hint of bitterness in her voice. Though I doubt they'll last long after today's fiasco. By mid-afternoon, they confirmed via the camera feed that the house remained empty. Roxanne decided it was safe to return home to gather some essentials. She would spend one more night at Sherry's, confronting Julius in the morning when she was fully prepared. Before leaving Sherry's apartment, Roxanne checked her phone one more time. No messages from Julius, not even a perfunctory check-in asking how her fictional workshop was going. His indifference was just another confirmation that her decision was right. The house felt different when she entered, tainted somehow, as if the morning's events had left a residue she could sense, but not see. She moved quickly through the rooms, packing an overnight bag with clothes for the next day, toiletries, and important documents. In the home office, she gathered financial records she might need, bank statements, investment portfolios, the deed to the house with both their names. In the master bathroom, she paused before the mirror, studying her reflection. The woman who looked back at her seemed simultaneously familiar and strange. The same features, but something altered in the eyes. Harder, clearer. She thought of the text message that had broken her heart. I'm tired of brunettes. Now I only want blondes. Well, I'm tired too, Julius, she whispered to her reflection. Tired of lies, tired of disrespect, tired of being underestimated. As she turned to leave, her gaze fell on a framed photo on Julius's nightstand. The two of them on their honeymoon in Bali, sun-kissed and smiling, the ocean stretching endlessly behind them. She remembered that day clearly, how Julius had asked a passing stranger to take their photo, how he had whispered "forever" in her ear just before the shutter clicked. She placed the photo face down on the nightstand and left the room without looking back. When she returned to Sherry's apartment, her friend was still monitoring the camera feed, though nothing had changed. The pool area remained empty, the water undisturbed. Any word from Julius? Sherry asked, as Roxanne set down her overnight bag. Not a peep, Roxanne replied. I'm guessing he's still golfing. Or perhaps drowning his sorrows at the 19th hole. And what about little Miss Lobster? Any updates there? Roxanne shook her head, but then a thought occurred to her. Actually, let's see if Dr. Barker has posted anything on social media. She seems like the type who documents everything. A quick search brought up Lorraine's Instagram profile, but there had been no new posts since the previous day. A carefully curated photo of her with product samples for the launch, her skin looking flawless and porcelain-like. The contrast with her current lobster-red reality would have been comical if the situation weren't so painful. She's gone dark, Sherry observed, probably trying every remedy known to medical science to fix her face before tomorrow's launch. Do you think she'll succeed? Roxanne asked, surprised to find herself curious rather than vindictive about the answer. Sherry, who had worked as a makeup artist before starting her own business, shook her head confidently. Not a chance. That level of redness can't be fixed overnight. Even with the best color-correcting makeup, it would be obvious. And under bright lights at a product launch? Impossible to hide. The remainder of the day passed slowly. Roxanne and Sherry ordered dinner, watched movies, and avoided checking the camera feed too obsessively. Around 7:30, the motion sensor detected movement. Julius returning home, alone. They watched him enter the pool area briefly, seeming to search for something before going back inside. Probably looking for the sunscreen bottle, Sherry guessed, the one Lorraine took with her. Minutes later, Roxanne's phone buzzed with a text from Julius. How was your workshop? When will you be home? After 6 years of marriage, it was the first time she had ever deliberately lied to him in a text. It was great, Running late, having dinner with some colleagues to discuss follow-up projects. Be home around 10. His reply came immediately. Sounds good. See you then. So easy, so casual. As if he hadn't spent the morning planning to betray her, hadn't called her a witch through his lover's words, hadn't declared himself tired of brunettes. You know you don't have to go home tonight, Sherry said gently after Roxanne showed her the exchange. You could stay here, confront him in the morning as planned. Roxanne considered the option, tempted by the safety and comfort of her friend's home. But something had shifted inside her during the day. The shock and raw pain had been replaced by a cold clarity. No, she decided. I'm going home tonight. Not to confront him yet. I'm still sticking to the morning plan for that. But I want one more night in my house, in my bed. I want to watch him pretend everything is normal, knowing what I know. I want to remember every detail of his performance, so I never doubt my decision. Sherry nodded, understanding in her eyes. The last act of a bad play. Exactly. Roxanne began gathering her things, leaving the overnight bag with clothes for tomorrow. But I get to write the finale. At precisely 10:03, Roxanne entered her home for what she knew would be one of the last times as Julius's wife. He was in the living room, watching a basketball game, a beer in hand. He looked up when she entered, his smile practiced and empty. Hey, how was your day? He asked, lowering the volume on the TV. Roxanne mustered her most convincing smile. Informative. Yours? Nothing special. Caught up on some work. Then played a round of golf with Mike and the guys. The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly that Roxanne might have believed it, had she not witnessed the truth with her own eyes. In that moment, she realized that this performance, this casual exchange of fabricated days, was probably not new. How many times had they done this dance before, each concealing truths the other never suspected? Sounds nice, she replied, matching his casual tone. I'm pretty tired. Think I'll take a shower and head to bed. I'll be up soon, he promised, turning his attention back to the game. Under the hot spray of the shower, Roxanne let silent tears mingle with the water one last time. Not for the man in the living room. She had already mourned him. These were tears for the woman she had been, the life she had believed in, the future she had planned. Tomorrow, she would begin building something new. When Julius finally came to bed an hour later, she pretended to be asleep, keeping her breathing deep and regular. He slid under the covers, maintaining the careful distance that had become their norm without her ever noticing. No good-night kiss, no gentle touch, not even a whispered sleep well. Just silence and space between two people who had once promised each other forever. Roxanne lay awake long after Julius's breathing had settled into the rhythm of sleep. Tomorrow would bring confrontation, pain, anger, the messy dismantling of a shared life. But it would also bring truth, and, with it, the first steps toward something authentic, something better. Her last thought before drifting into an uneasy sleep was of the doctored sunscreen bottle, now in Lorraine's possession. She wondered if the dermatologist would ever figure out exactly what had happened, if she would recognize that her perfect skin had been undone by her own arrogance and disrespect. By tomorrow, both Lorraine and Julius would learn an important lesson. Some things, once damaged, could never be restored to their original state. Neither skin nor trust could be unburned. The morning light filtered through the curtains, painting soft stripes across the bedroom. Roxanne had been awake for hours, watching the gradual shift from night to dawn, her mind cycling through the confrontation to come. Beside her, Julius slept on, oblivious to the storm gathering in his wife's heart. 6:37. Time to set things in motion. She slipped out of bed without disturbing him and padded to the kitchen. With deliberate movements, she prepared coffee, the familiar routine grounding her for what was to come. By 7:15, 2 mugs of coffee steamed on the dining table, and Roxanne sat waiting, her laptop open in front of her. The shower started upstairs, Julius beginning his Monday morning routine. Roxanne opened the folder on her laptop containing screenshots of the text messages, arranging them in chronological order. Then she connected her phone to the laptop and downloaded the video footage from yesterday's pool scene. Everything was prepared. Julius appeared at 7:30, dressed in a charcoal suit and burgundy tie, his hair still damp from the shower. He stopped short when he saw Roxanne sitting at the table, clearly surprised to find her there. "You're up early," he commented, moving toward the coffee. "No clients this morning?" "I canceled them," Roxanne replied, her voice carefully neutral. "We need to talk, Julius." Something in her tone must have alerted him. He paused, coffee mug halfway to his lips, studying her face. "Is everything okay?" "No," she said simply. "Everything is not okay. Please, sit down." Wariness crept into his expression, but he complied, taking the seat across from her. "What's going on, Roxanne? You're scaring me a little." "Am I?" He maintained steady eye contact. "That's interesting, considering you haven't been concerned about my feelings for quite some time." Julius's brow furrowed in confusion. "What are you talking about?" Rather than answer immediately, Roxanne turned her laptop screen toward him. On it was the first screenshot, a text from Lorraine. "Miss you already. Can't wait for Sunday." The color drained from Julius's face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I can explain." "Please don't," Roxanne interrupted, her voice still calm but with an edge of steel. "Don't insult me with lies. I know everything, Julius. These aren't what they look like," he stammered, gesturing weakly at the screen. "Lorraine is just a what? A friend?" Roxanne clicked to the next screenshot. "I'm tired of brunettes. Now, I only want blondes." "Is that how friends talk to each other, Julius?" His face crumpled, the pretense evaporating. "How did you get these? Does it matter?" She moved through the screenshots methodically, each one another nail in the coffin of their marriage. "I know she's been here, in our home. I know you invited her over yesterday while I was supposedly at my workshop. I know she uses my personal products, that she calls me a witch, and you laugh about it." See, Julius's expression cycled through shock, guilt, and finally, a flicker of anger. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been uncovering the truth," Roxanne corrected him. "A truth you've been very careful to hide." "Roxanne, listen to me. It's not serious with Lorraine. It's just physical, a fling, a way to experience someone different after getting tired of me." She kept her voice level despite the pain lancing through her chest. "I don't care what category of betrayal you've assigned it, Julius. The result is the same." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration she'd seen countless times during their marriage. "Everyone makes mistakes. We can work through this. Couples therapy. Maybe." "This isn't a mistake," Roxanne cut him off. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or saying something hurtful in the heat of an argument. This is a deliberate, ongoing choice you've made, day after day, for months." "I love you, Roxanne," Julius said, desperation creeping into his voice. "Lorraine means nothing to me. She's just a distraction, a novelty, a younger, whiter version of the woman you promised to love forever." Roxanne felt her careful composure slipping. "Stop lying, Julius. If nothing else, at least give me the respect of honesty now." Silence hung between them for several heartbeats. Then Julius seemed to deflate, his shoulders sagging. "Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Lorraine. Yes, it's been going on for a while. But it doesn't mean I don't care about you, about us. It's complicated." "It's really not," Roxanne countered. "Fidelity is actually quite simple. You either honor your vows or you don't. You chose not to." Julius's expression hardened slightly. "Marriage isn't black and white, Roxanne. People change. Needs change. We've been growing apart for years. When was the last time you really saw me? Really wanted me? Between your clients and your nutrition programs and your endless self-improvement, there's barely been room for me in your life. The accusation stung, partially because Roxanne recognized a kernel of truth in it. They had grown distant, each retreating into separate spheres. But that didn't excuse betrayal. If you felt neglected, you could have said something, she replied, her voice softer but no less firm. We could have worked on our issues together. Instead, you chose deception. I tried talking to you, Julius insisted, but you're always so perfect, so put together, like nothing ever bothers you. It's intimidating. Roxanne felt a surge of bitter laughter. And yet, here we are, with me very much bothered. Perhaps you didn't try hard enough. She clicked to a new file on her laptop, the video from yesterday. Julius's eyes widened as he recognized himself and Lorraine by the pool. You recorded us? That's invasion of privacy. In my own home? Where you brought another woman without my knowledge or consent? Roxanne shook her head. Don't try to claim the moral high ground here, Julius. It's a losing battle. She let the video play. Lorraine applying the sunscreen, the gradual reddening of her skin, the ensuing panic and argument. Despite everything, a flicker of amusement crossed Julius's face at the memory of Lorraine's dramatic transformation. So that's what happened to the sunscreen, he murmured. Roxanne raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Julius hesitated, then sighed. Lorraine was convinced something was wrong with your sunscreen, that it had been tampered with. She took the bottle with her to have it analyzed. And what did she find? Roxanne asked, careful to keep her expression neutral. I don't know. She hasn't returned my calls since yesterday. He looked up suddenly, realization dawning. Wait, did you… Roxanne met his gaze steadily. Did I what? For a long moment, Julius studied her face, seeing something there he apparently hadn't recognized before. You did something to the sunscreen, didn't you? That's why Lorraine turned so red. What I may or may not have done is irrelevant to the larger conversation we're having, Roxanne replied smoothly. What matters is that our marriage is over, Julius. The finality of her words seemed to hit him like a physical blow. Over? Just like that? After 6 years? No, not just like that, Roxanne corrected him. After months of your lying, cheating, and disrespect. After you invited another woman into our home, gave her access to my personal space and belongings, mocked me behind my back, and planned elaborate rendezvous while I was supposedly away. She closed the laptop gently. The marriage has been dying for some time. Today, I'm simply signing the death certificate. Julius leaned forward, desperation evident in his posture. Roxanne, please. Everyone deserves a second chance. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we can get past this. We can rebuild. Perhaps some couples could, she acknowledged. But I don't want to, Julius. That's what you're not understanding. I don't want to rebuild something with someone who could betray me so thoroughly, someone who could speak about me with such contempt. It wasn't contempt, he protested weakly. What would you call it then? Referring to me as a witch? Telling your mistress you're tired of women who look like me? Julius winced. Those were just words. Stupid words. They didn't mean anything. They meant something to me, Roxanne said quietly. And that's what matters now. A new emotion flickered across Julius's face. Anger, breaking through the guilt and desperation. So that's it? No discussion? No attempt to work through this? Just over? What did you expect, Julius? That I'd beg you to stay? Compete with Lorraine for your attention? Promise to be more exciting, less focused on my career? Roxanne shook her head. That's not who I am, and it's not what I deserve. Julius stood abruptly, pacing the kitchen with agitated steps. This is absurd. People work through affairs all the time. They don't just throw away years of marriage over one indiscretion. Multiple indiscretions, Roxanne corrected. And I'm not people, I'm me. I know what I can forgive and what I can't. This falls firmly in the latter category. So you're perfect? You've never made a mistake? His voice rose, frustration evident. What about that client you were too friendly with last year? The one who kept sending you texts at all hours? Mark was a client going through a difficult divorce who needed nutritional support for stress management. Roxanne replied calmly. And the moment I sensed he might be developing inappropriate feelings, I referred him to another nutritionist. I maintained proper boundaries, Julius, something you clearly struggle with. Julius ran both hands through his hair, his composure crumbling. I can't believe this is happening. Just like that. You're ending us. Where will I go? What about the house? You'll stay with Mike, I imagine, Roxanne said, referencing his closest friend. As for the house, we'll need to sell it and split the proceeds. My attorney will be in touch about the details. Your attorney? Julius looked stunned. You've already spoken to a lawyer? I called first thing this morning, Roxanne confirmed. I have an appointment at 2 this afternoon. The reality of the situation seemed to finally sink in. Julius sank back into his chair, his expression somewhere between disbelief and defeat. You've really thought this through? Yes, I have. Roxanne stood, gathering her laptop. I'd appreciate if you could pack some essentials and be out of the house by the time I return from my attorney's office. You can come back for the rest of your things later this week. While I'm at work, I'll have the locks changed tomorrow. This is my house, too, Julius protested, a hint of his normal confidence returning. You can't just kick me out. You're right. It is your house, too, Roxanne acknowledged. And if you want to make this difficult, involve the courts in determining temporary occupation rights, hire your own attorney to fight for every inch of territory, we can certainly do that. Or you can respect the fact that you shattered our marriage and give me the space I need to begin healing. Julius stared at her, as if seeing her for the first time. I don't even recognize you right now. This cold, calculating person, this isn't the Roxanne I married. Maybe you never really knew me, she suggested, just as I clearly never really knew you. A tense silence fell between them, broken only when Julius's phone buzzed with an incoming message. He glanced at it, and something in his expression changed. A flash of concern or surprise quickly masked. Lorraine? Roxanne guessed, watching his reaction. Julius nodded reluctantly. Yes, she wants to meet. Well, don't let me keep you from your sunshine after years of darkness. Roxanne quoted his own text back to him, unable to keep the bitterness entirely from her voice. Julius winced. It's not like that. She's actually calling to end things. Seems her career is in jeopardy after yesterday's sunburn incident. The product launch has been postponed, and she's blaming me somehow. Despite everything, Roxanne felt a flicker of satisfaction. How unfortunate for both of you. Julius looked up sharply. It was you, wasn't it? You did something to the sunscreen. Roxanne merely shrugged. Like I said, what I may or may not have done is irrelevant now. But perhaps it's worth considering that actions have consequences, Julius. For everyone involved. He turned to leave the kitchen, then paused. I expect you'll be gone by 4. If not, I'll be staying at Sherry's until you are. Your choice. As she walked away, she heard him mutter, I should have known Sherry was involved in this too. Never did like me. Roxanne couldn't help the small, sad smile that curved her lips. She saw what I couldn't, she said without turning around. That's what real friends do. In their bedroom, soon to be just hers, Roxanne began methodically preparing for her day. She selected a tailored navy suit for her meeting with the attorney, paired with the emerald necklace her father had given her before he passed. Armor and talisman combined. As she dressed, she could hear Julius moving around downstairs, making phone calls, his voice alternating between pleading and defensive. She tuned him out, focusing instead on the practical steps ahead. The attorney meeting, changing her direct deposit information at work, calling their bank to freeze joint accounts until the divorce settlement was arranged. By 9:30, she was ready to leave. Julius was in the living room, still in his suit, but looking considerably more disheveled, his tie loosened and hair mussed from repeatedly running his hands through it. He looked up when she entered, his eyes red-rimmed. Roxanne, please, he said, his voice hoarse. Can we just talk about this? Really talk? Without the lawyers and the ultimatums? She paused, considering his request. Part of her, a small, wounded part, wanted to give him that chance, to hear whatever explanation or apology he might offer. But the stronger part knew better. We just did talk, Julius, she said gently. And nothing you said changed the fact that you betrayed our marriage in the most fundamental way possible. Not just physically, but emotionally. You gave another woman access to our most intimate space, spoke about me with contempt, and lied to my face day after day. She shook her head. There's nothing left to discuss. I love you, he said, the words sounding hollow even to her ears. No, you don't, she replied without rancor. Not in any way that matters. She picked up her purse and car keys, preparing to leave for her appointment with Sherry before meeting the attorney. I meant what I said about being out by 4. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. As she drove away from the house, she glanced in the rearview mirror. Julius stood in the doorway, watching her go, his expression unreadable from a distance. For a moment, a wave of grief threatened to overwhelm her. Not for the man, but for the life she had believed in, the future they had planned together, the trust she had given so completely. Then she remembered his words. I'm tired of brunettes. Now I only want blondes. And the grief hardened into resolve. What lay ahead might be uncertain and frightening, but it was hers to shape. No more living in the shadow of betrayal, no more giving her heart to someone who valued it so little. Her phone chimed with a message from Sherry. How did it go? Are you okay? I have coffee and emergency chocolate waiting. Despite everything, Roxanne smiled. She had lost a husband, but she still had herself, her strength, her dignity, her ability to start anew, and she had friends who truly saw her worth. For now, that was enough. The rest would come with time. As she pulled into Sherry's driveway, Roxanne felt lighter than she had in months, perhaps years. The confrontation was over, the decision made, the path forward clear, if challenging. Julius would be out of the house by afternoon, their shared life already dissolving into separate streams. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, legal meetings, financial adjustments, the emotional labor of untangling 6 years of marriage. But today, this moment, she had taken back her power. She had faced betrayal with dignity and emerged with her sense of self intact. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was a necessary one. And somewhere in the future, beyond the paperwork and the pain, Roxanne knew she would find something better, something real, something entirely her own. 1 year later, Roxanne stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of her new office, watching the late afternoon sunlight cast golden reflections across downtown Houston's sleek buildings. So much had changed in a year. Her home, her business, even her sense of self. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, relatively smooth as these things go. Julius, faced with irrefutable evidence of his infidelity, hadn't fought the equitable division of assets Roxanne's attorney proposed. The house had sold quickly, allowing them both fresh starts in new spaces. Her phone buzzed with a notification, pulling her from her thoughts. The subscriber count for her online nutrition platform had just crossed 50,000, a milestone that seemed impossible when she'd launched it 8 months ago. We did it, she murmured to herself, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. A knock at her door preceded Sherry's entrance, tablet in hand, practically vibrating with excitement. Have you seen the numbers? 50,000 subscribers, Rox, and the engagement metrics are through the roof. Roxanne nodded, unable to contain her own excitement. I just got the alert. It's incredible. Incredible? It's bloody miraculous, Sherry corrected, setting the tablet down on Roxanne's pristine desk. As her business partner and head of operations, Sherry had been instrumental in transforming what had once been a small nutrition consultancy into a thriving wellness empire. When you said you wanted to create a holistic nutrition program for women over 40, I believed in you, but I never imagined we'd grow this fast. Me neither, Roxanne admitted, moving away from the window to examine the statistics Sherry had pulled up, especially considering I launched it from my rental apartment using equipment borrowed from your boyfriend's media company. Ex-boyfriend, Sherry corrected with a grin. But the equipment was worth keeping, even if he wasn't. They laughed together, the easy camaraderie between them one of the unexpected gifts that had emerged from the wreckage of Roxanne's marriage. What had begun as Sherry's moral support during the divorce had evolved into a business partnership that played to both their strengths. Roxanne's expertise in nutrition and wellness, Sherry's savvy marketing and operational skills. The interview with Women's Health just went live, by the way, Sherry said, swiping to show Roxanne the article. They're calling you a pioneer in midlife nutrition and praising the program's emphasis on emotional wellness alongside physical health. Roxanne skimmed the article, pride warming her chest. The journalist had captured the essence of her philosophy perfectly, that nutrition wasn't just about food, but about nourishing every aspect of oneself. It was a perspective she'd developed during her own healing journey after the divorce, when she'd realized how deeply her emotional well-being affected her physical health. This is perfect timing with the book launch next month, she observed. Speaking of which, I just got the final cover design from the publisher. She pulled up the image on her computer. A striking cover featuring her photo against a backdrop of vibrant, nourishing foods. The title, Feeding Your Soul, A Nutritionist's Guide to Midlife Transformation, was embossed in elegant gold lettering. It's gorgeous, Sherry breathed, just like its author. Roxanne felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. At 40, she had never felt more beautiful or more confident in her own skin. The woman who stared back from the mirror each morning bore little resemblance to the shell-shocked wife who had discovered a blonde hair on a white towel a year ago. This Roxanne stood taller, smiled more readily, and carried herself with an assurance born of survival and reinvention. We should celebrate the subscriber milestone, Sherry declared. Dinner tonight? I could call the team. Maybe see if that new fusion place downtown can fit us in. Actually, Roxanne replied, checking her watch, I have plans tonight. Rain check until tomorrow? Sherry's eyebrows shot up, a knowing smile playing at her lips. Plans? With Dr. Handsome, perhaps? Roxanne rolled her eyes, but couldn't suppress her smile. His name is Michael, as you very well know. Dr. Michael Chen, renowned cardiologist, volunteer at free clinics, and apparently a master chef, if your stories about his cooking are to be believed, Sherry recited dramatically. Honestly, Rox, if you hadn't met him through that charity event I organized, I'd think you made him up. Sometimes I wonder if I did, Roxanne admitted with a soft laugh. He seems too good to be true. Their relationship was still new, just 3 months, but it had already shown Roxanne how different love could be when built on mutual respect and genuine connection. Michael challenged her intellectually, supported her ambitions, and made her feel valued in ways Julius never had. You deserve too good to be true after what you went through, Sherry said firmly. And speaking of things that seemed too good to be true, did you see this? She handed Roxanne her phone, opened to a local news article. The headline read, Prominent dermatologist's practice faces bankruptcy after failed product line and malpractice suits. Roxanne skimmed the article, her eyes widening. Lorraine Barker? Julius's Lorraine? Sherry nodded, barely containing her glee. The very same. Apparently, after that disastrous sunscreen incident, her reputation in the dermatology community took a nosedive. The product line she was supposed to launch got scrapped entirely when photos of her looking like a boiled lobster somehow leaked online. Somehow. Roxanne raised an eyebrow. I may know someone who knows someone who works in PR at the skincare company, Sherry admitted, not looking remotely guilty. Anyway, it gets better. After losing that contract, she apparently got desperate and started cutting corners at her practice, using diluted treatments, recommending unnecessary procedures. 3 malpractice suits later, she's filing for bankruptcy and may lose her medical license. Roxanne handed the phone back, her feelings mixed. On one hand, there was an undeniable satisfaction in knowing that Lorraine was facing consequences for her actions. On the other hand, the depth of Lorraine's downfall seemed almost excessive compared to her sins. "What about Julius?" she asked, surprising herself with how distant he felt now, like a character from a book she'd read long ago, rather than the man who had shared her bed for 6 years. "Last I heard, he got passed over for that big promotion he was always talking about," Sherry replied. Apparently, the company wasn't impressed by his personal choices after some anonymous person sent screenshots of those text messages to his boss. She had the decency to look slightly abashed at this revelation. "Sherry, you didn't." "I may have," she admitted, but only after he tried contesting the divorce settlement at the last minute. Some people need to learn that actions have consequences. Roxanne shook her head, unable to summon any real disapproval. Julius's career setbacks weren't her concern anymore. His choices had forged his path, just as hers had shaped her new life. "Enough about ancient history," she said decisively. "We have 50,000 subscribers to celebrate and a book launch to prepare for. Let's focus on that." They spent the next hour reviewing the upcoming marketing calendar for the book release, podcast appearances, speaking engagements, a 10-city tour that would take Roxanne across the country, sharing her message of nutritional empowerment and midlife renewal. As they worked, Roxanne occasionally caught her reflection in the glass wall separating her office from the main workspace, a spacious open plan where 8 employees now worked on various aspects of the business. Sometimes, the speed of her transformation still took her breath away. From a private practice nutritionist working from a small office to the founder and CEO of Nourish and Thrive Wellness, with a book deal and speaking engagements and this beautiful downtown office with a team of dedicated staff. None of it would have happened if Julius hadn't betrayed her. The thought was both ironic and profound, how destruction could create space for growth, how endings could birth beginnings more beautiful than she could have imagined. At 6:30, Sherry finally gathered her things to leave. "Don't stay too late. Your handsome doctor awaits." "I'm leaving in 15 minutes, Roxanne promised. "Just want to review these speaking points for tomorrow's podcast one more time." After Sherry left, Roxanne found herself drawn back to the windows, gazing out at the city as it transitioned from day to evening. The lights were beginning to flicker on in office buildings and apartments, countless lives unfolding in their own complex patterns of loss and discovery, endings and beginnings. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Reservation at 8. I'm making chocolate soufflé for dessert at my place after. Don't work too late." She smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. This feeling of being cared for, being seen, was what she deserved. What everyone deserved. As she gathered her things to leave, her gaze fell on a small jade plant on her credenza, the only item she'd taken from her office in the old house. It had been dying then, neglected during the tumultuous weeks of discovering Julius's betrayal. Now it thrived, its plump green leaves reaching toward the sunlight, transformed by proper care and attention, much like its owner. The drive to the restaurant took her past her old neighborhood. On impulse, Roxanne took a slight detour, slowing as she approached what had once been her house. New owners had painted the door a cheerful yellow, planted different flowers in the beds she had once tended so carefully. The changes should have felt jarring, but instead they seemed right, the house evolving just as she had, becoming something new and different. She didn't linger. That life was behind her now, a closed chapter in a story that continued to unfold in unexpected ways. Ahead lay dinner with Michael, whose quiet strength and genuine respect had begun healing parts of her heart she hadn't even realized were wounded. Beyond that stretched the book tour, the expanding business, opportunities she couldn't yet imagine but felt ready to embrace. The restaurant Michael had chosen was one of Houston's finest, an elegant space with soft lighting and discreet service. He was already waiting when she arrived, rising from the table with a warm smile that made her heart beat a little faster. "You look beautiful," he said, pressing a gentle kiss to her cheek. "Thank you," she replied, settling into the chair he held for her. "You're not so bad yourself, Doctor." Their conversation flowed easily through appetizers and into the main course. Michael sharing stories from the hospital, Roxanne excitedly recounting the subscriber milestone and the women's health feature. Unlike with Julius in those final years, there were no silences to fill, no sense of speaking into a void. Michael listened, really listened, his questions thoughtful, his engagement genuine. Between the main course and dessert, Michael reached across the table to take her hand, his expression suddenly serious. "I have something to ask you." Roxanne felt her pulse quicken. They'd only been dating 3 months. Surely he wasn't about to. "The International Cardiology Conference in London this fall," he continued, oblivious to her momentary panic. "I was wondering if you might consider coming with me. It's 2 weeks, and I know it's a long time to be away from your business, but I thought perhaps you could schedule some work events there too. Maybe extend your book tour internationally?" Relief mixed with genuine pleasure at the invitation. "I'd love to," she replied honestly. "I've always wanted to see London, and Sherry has been pushing for an international expansion of the brand." His face lit up. "Really? That's wonderful. I was afraid it might seem too forward, asking you to travel together so soon." 3 months isn't so soon when you're our age," Roxanne said with a smile. "We're old enough to know what we want." "And what do you want, Roxanne Mullen?" he asked, his dark eyes intent on hers. She considered the question carefully. A year ago, her answer might have been tentative, shaped by loss and uncertainty. But now, looking at this kind, brilliant man across the table, feeling the solid foundation of the life she'd built from the ruins of her marriage, she knew exactly what she wanted. "This," she said simply, "a life that's authentically mine, work that matters, people who see my worth, and someone who chooses me, actively and intentionally, every day, just as I choose them." Michael's smile deepened, revealing the slight dimple in his left cheek that she found endlessly charming. "I think those are eminently achievable goals." Later, as they shared the promised chocolate soufflé in Michael's elegant high-rise apartment, Roxanne found herself thinking about the strange, winding path that had led her here. If someone had told her a year ago that discovering her husband's betrayal would ultimately lead to the most fulfilling period of her life, she would have thought them cruel or delusional. And yet, here she was, professionally successful beyond her wildest dreams, emotionally stronger than she'd ever been, and beginning a relationship that showed her what genuine partnership could feel like. "Penny for your thoughts?" Michael asked, noticing her momentary distraction. Roxanne smiled, returning to the present moment. "I was just thinking about how life's biggest heartbreaks sometimes turn out to be disguised opportunities. If my marriage hadn't ended the way it did, I might never have found the courage to expand my practice, write the book, or meet you. Their loss, my gain," Michael said simply, reaching across the table to take her hand. As she drove home later that night, Roxanne thought about Lorraine Barker and her failed career, about Julius and his missed promotion. She felt no satisfaction in their struggles, no desire for revenge or retribution. That part of her healing was complete. What remained was gratitude, not for the betrayal itself, but for what it had revealed about her own strength, her capacity for reinvention, her worthiness of genuine love and respect. The blonde hair on the white towel had been a door closing, but doors closed so others could open, revealing vistas more beautiful than she could have imagined from the other side. In her darkest moments after discovering Julius's betrayal, Roxanne had feared she was losing everything. Instead, she had found herself, The woman who had always been there beneath the roles of wife and nutritionist, waiting to emerge. A woman of strength and resilience, capable of transforming pain into purpose, betrayal into wisdom. As she pulled into the driveway of her new home, a modern townhouse with soaring ceilings and walls adorned with art she'd chosen herself, Roxanne felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. The journey from betrayal to rebuilding had been painful, but the woman who emerged on the other side was stronger, wiser, and more authentically herself than she had ever been before. Sometimes, the greatest gifts came disguised as losses. Sometimes, what looked like an ending was really the beginning of something far more beautiful than you could have imagined. And sometimes, finding a blonde hair on a white towel wasn't the end of your story. It was just the first page of a much better chapter. Roxanne Mullen had lost a husband, but found herself. In the grand accounting of life, she considered it more than a fair exchange. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And drop a comment below. What city are you watching from? And if your heart tells you to, feel free to leave me a tip on Buy Me a Coffee. Just check the first pinned comment. Thanks for keeping me company and for the coffee, and I'll see you in the next story.